My previous video of checking piston protrusion on my Powerstroke 6.0 morphed into finding a poorly reground crankshaft. That was in the engine block for 75,000 miles. It could have gone back in since it worked, but that's not me. This is not a project truck for many years or a lot of miles. So I was not spending $2,000 buying a reground replacement crankshaft from a Ford dealer. And I'm a little gun-shy of any reground crankshafts at this point. But there are a lot of used crankshafts for this motor out there, which speaks to its toughness. So I bought a used crankshaft looking for one that had not been machined. Another reason other than being gun-shy was I wanted to put an OE machined crankshaft in to see the numbers of this block with these connecting rods. So I was on a mission from God. This crankshaft had twice the miles in service. You don't need to do much to clean up a crank if it's in good shape. You'll notice a second crank in the background. What a seller says is a great crank may not be the same understanding you have, so they agreed to send me another, and curiously didn't want the first one back. If when I'm done working with this one it doesn't meet my specs, these cranks are cheap enough I could get another, but I didn't have to. Some of the visual issues are coloration, not scoring, although there is more than what my 75,000 mile crank had. The connecting rod journals I previously touched with Scotch-Brite 600 before I started the video. I was eager. The journal diameter numbers were good and left me some room for polishing, and the crank's run out was acceptable. So I started my work. But this shows you what you can expect at 150,000 miles. Some people wanted me to show more technique than I did in the other video, where I polished the crank. So that's what this video is going to show. I still didn't go into full detail, but if you don't want to watch a guy polish a crank, you can jump to 8:30. You can get specific polishing belts from McMaster. When you do, the abrasive nomenclature will throw you off. There are different ways of grading abrasives, and these MX abrasives don't correlate to the standards we know from typical sanding paper. The 320 MX is the equivalent of 800 grit, so don't get freaked out by the numbers you see. As I polish it out, I do keep checking the diameters of the journals, so I know how much is being abraded from these hardened journals and when it's time to back off. It's easy to get carried away. One thing to notice is I don't use a lot of pressure, just enough to have full contact. I've got all day, and I'd rather minimize deeper abrasive scratches. So this is where I left it, polished enough for me. The next thing is cleaning all the surfaces and oil channels. And for the curious, the delta between the two. The remanufactured crankshaft protrusion is on top, and the used but polished OE never been ground crankshaft is on the bottom. So the block is good and the connecting rods are good. Thanks for watching.